Monkey D. Luffy. This is the full name of the main character in the story of One Piece. In fact, this name was decided all the way back in Romance Dawn, the prototype for One Piece. I believe Oda-sensei has hidden an important meaning in this name. Interestingly, Garp also appeared in the one-shot, playing a key role much like Shanks. Of course, the D has been a hot topic of discussion for years, sparking countless theories and debates, but equally mysterious is the monkey family itself. While we've seen Dragon and Garp, there's no information about their wives. Nor do we know what their lives were like during their childhoods. So, in this video, I'll dive deep into the mysteries of the monkey family. There's also some fascinating information in the Vivre cards and One Piece magazine that I'll translate and share with all of you. I strive to provide interpretations from a native Japanese perspective. For parts I can't fully cover in the videos, I share additional insights on my Patreon page. It seems that some One Piece-focused creators are already using my Patreon content, so feel free to check it out and join as well. That said, since One Piece incorporates elements from many cultures, I'd love to hear your opinions based on your cultural or linguistic knowledge. Please share your thoughts in the comments. My goal is to make this channel a place where knowledge from around the world comes together. Now then, let's dive straight into unraveling the mysteries of the monkey family together. The name monkey likely refers to the animal, a monkey. In fact, Luffy is often called a monkey by characters like Momonosuke and Flampe. In Japanese, the kanji for monkey is written like this: Saru. This same character is also used in Luffy's special attack, Bajrang Gun, the move he used to knock Kaido into the magma. Interestingly, Oda-sensei's concept notes include the term monkey god, suggesting that the monkey is an important model not only for Luffy, but also for Nika. Here's an analysis unique to Dusk as a native Japanese speaker. In some contexts, another kanji is used to represent monkey. This variation might be familiar to avid One Piece readers. It's even highlighted in Volume 76's SBS section. In the Japanese Eto, zodiac system, a different character is used for the monkey. In the old Japanese lunar calendar, the zodiac signs were tied to earthly branches, which were part of a timekeeping system used to represent hours, days, and months. The monkey corresponds to the 7th month of the lunar calendar, which typically falls between August and early September in today's calendar. There are various theories about the origins of this kanji, but let's focus on one explanation for why this kanji is used. Interestingly, this kanji is also a component of the character for this kanji, nobasu or nobiru, which means to stretch or to grow. In Japan, growth is often described as nobiru, which means to extend or to stretch. The connection comes from how this kanji, associated with August in the Japanese calendar, represents a time when plants and trees have grown to their fullest. And as you've probably noticed, Luffy also has the ability to stretch his body. Another connection to this kanji. What's more, this kanji is also a component of another important character. Kami, meaning God. The current top figure among the gods, Imu, has the surname Nerona. It's a well-known fact that when the katakana for Nerona are rearranged, they form the kanji for God. Considering that the kanji, representing the monkey in the Japanese zodiac, is also a part of the kanji for God, it's possible that the monkey family has a deep connection to the sun god Nika in the ancient calendar of the One Piece world. In fact, according to Oda-sensei's concept notes, one of the inspirations for Gear 5th is Hanuman, the monkey god. Hanuman is known for an incredible myth. As a child, Hanuman mistook the sun for a ripe fruit and leapt into the sky, attempting to eat it. His immense strength and courage allowed him to soar toward the sun. We don't know how much Oda-sensei plans to delve into the Void Century or the origins of the Blue Planet, but the monkey family may have a profound connection to the ancient god, Nika. Since Zoan-type devil fruits are said to have a will of their own, it's also possible that the will of Nika guided the Hito Hito no Mi, model Nika, directly to Luffy, the descendant of the monkey family. And here's another important point to note. The letter D is included in all of their names. In chapter 1120, it was revealed that a man with the D in his name, the brother of Clover, was killed just for revealing his name. People with D in their names seem to come from a bloodline that the world considers dangerous and wants to erase. Luffy, who often introduces himself as Monkey D. Luffy, has never faced any threat from those around him just because of his name. This could be because he grew up in Fuchsia Village, which might have protected him somehow. As I mentioned on Elon X, Garp and Dragon's birthplace is listed as the Goa Kingdom in East Blue. When you see the term birthplace, it usually refers to the place where someone was born. For example, Bonnie's birthplace was originally listed as South Blue on her Vivre card, but once the main story hinted that she was actually born in Mariajoie, her Vivre card was updated to reflect Mariajoie as her birthplace. What's interesting here is that, while Garp and Dragon's birthplace is listed as East Blue Goa Kingdom, Luffy's birthplace is specified as East Blue Fuchsia Village. This suggests that, although Garp and Dragon were born somewhere within the Goa Kingdom, it doesn't necessarily mean they were born in Fuchsia Village. They might have been born in a central town or a higher district. In Garp's childhood scenes, we see him riding a tiger and discovering treasure chests, which hints that he might have found life in the upper town too restrictive, similar to Sabo. Maybe he ran away and trained in the forest, unable to endure the confines of city life. If this is true, why is it that only Luffy is from Fuchsia Village? This might be connected to Garp's joining the Navy. We don't know how Garp ended up in the Navy, but he was likely hiding the D in his name back then. Sengoku once mentioned that Garp is spared from being erased by the world government because he has a lot of influence and a solid track record. Obviously, when he first enlisted, he wouldn't have had either of those, so he probably had to keep his identity under wraps when he joined. However, as we all know, Garp and Luffy suffer from the blabbermouth syndrome and can't keep secrets they aren't supposed to reveal. At some point, he likely let something slip, but by then, Garp had built up enough strength and accomplishments to avoid being erased. Dragon, his son, also served as a Marine, so it's possible Dragon was spared as a favor to Garp and his reputation. It's been shown multiple times that Garp wanted Luffy to become a Marine, while Dragon, on the other hand, likely wanted Luffy to have the freedom to choose his own path. This line from Dragon perfectly reflects his wish. A pirate, huh? That's fine too. Go for it. If that's your way of life, then go live it. If Luffy had become a Marine, he likely wouldn't have faced the risk of being erased. But Dragon wanted Luffy to live life as he chose, so he left him in Fuchsia Village. Since Fuchsia Village is far from the main areas of the Goa Kingdom, there's little chance of celestial dragons visiting, and the villagers there don't seem like the type to report Luffy to the government just because he has the D in his name. In fact, when Luffy became known as a pirate, Whoop Slap called it fate. So the villagers probably accepted Luffy, knowing who he really was. Incidentally, the first time Luffy introduced himself with his full name was after defeating Kurahadol. Let's take a closer look at what he said then. A pirate who throws away his name and runs from the sea could never beat me. The only time a pirate should give up his name is when he's dead. Even though Luffy doesn't care much about his bloodline, he's clearly proud of his own name. Once he's recognized himself as Monkey D. Luffy, hiding the D wouldn't feel right to him. Thinking about this, it becomes clear that keeping him in the Goa Kingdom would have been a risk to his life. By the way, I personally find an interesting connection related to this statement by Luffy. In fact, there's one pirate who abandoned their name and ended up dying. Do you know who it is? There's a scene where the Akazaya samurai charge at Kaido while shouting, "Snatch." The word snatch means to throw away one's name. Inuarashi and Nekomamushi also have experience as pirates, but among them, the one who lived the longest as a pirate was Izo. It's possible that, as a pirate, his decision to abandon his name ultimately led to his death. Let's take a closer look at the monkey family lineage. So far, we know that Garp's son is Dragon, and Dragon's son is Luffy. To be honest, there's still a possibility that Dragon isn't Garp's biological son, but rather a son-in-law who joined the family through marriage. However, Dragon's Vivre card states that he was born in the Goa Kingdom as Garp's son. That said, there have been precedents of changes in Vivre card details, like Bonnie's birthplace being updated or Saul being considered deceased for a time. These examples show that Vivre card entries can be revised. But for now, it's safe to assume that Dragon is indeed Garp's biological son. This brings up an interesting point about Dragon's face and personality. If you've read One Piece, you've probably wondered the same thing. Garp and Luffy look alike, so much so that Luffy's appearance at age 60 and Garp's at 66 are practically identical. But Dragon's vibe is noticeably different. In fact, when Luffy first saw Dragon's face in the newspaper, his reaction was, "He doesn't look like me." It's clear that Oda-sensei deliberately made Dragon's appearance distinct from the other two. One of our Patreon members even asked, why is he the gloomy Gus of the family? Oda-sensei makes an effort to always show him as grim, as opposed to Luffy and Garp. As I mentioned earlier, both Dragon's Vivre card and his character profile on the official One Piece website clearly state that he's Garp's son. Considering this, it seems most likely that Dragon takes after his mother rather than his father in terms of appearance and personality. When it comes to Garp's wife, in other words, Dragon's mother, there's only one thing that comes to mind. Does anyone have an idea who it might be? I'm talking about the pair who looked like a mother and child drawn behind Garp in Chapter 1096 when Kong ordered him to deploy to God Valley. The one holding the ball is clearly a woman, but the child is harder to identify. However, based on the hairstyle, the swimsuit, and the pose, one that resembles the pose young Bonnie often strikes, it seems likely the child is a girl. Personally, I think this could be Garp's wife and their daughter. If that's the case, it would mean Dragon has a sibling, a sister. For context, the God Valley incident happened 38 years ago, which would have made Dragon 17 years old at the time. Considering that Luffy set out to sea at 17 and Kobe joined the Marines at 16, it's entirely plausible that Dragon was already in the Marines by then. This could explain why he wasn't present at the beach scene. Of course, it's hard to imagine Dragon, with his serious demeanor, relaxing at the beach in the first place. Now, here's something else worth thinking about. Why would Garp, who clearly despises the celestial dragons, name his own son Dragon? It's a mystery that's actually been touched on in One Piece magazine, so I'd like to share a translated excerpt with you. I'll make the full content of this video free to view for now, but once it reaches 1,000 views, I plan to restrict it to members only. So if you're curious, be sure to check it out as soon as possible. If Dragon was indeed named by Monkey D. Garp, it's particularly shocking. Garp is a man who hates the celestial dragons so much that he chose to remain a vice admiral despite his strength. As you know, the Marines is a military organization directly under the world government, and the 5 elders, the highest authority of the world government, sit at the top. If Dragon was born after Garp joined the Marines, would he really name his son something that evokes the image of the very power he detests? There are a few possible explanations for why Garp named his son Dragon. One possibility is that Garp didn't actually choose the name himself. Perhaps it was chosen by someone else, possibly Garp's wife, who might have ties to the celestial dragons or someone connected to them. It's revealed that Dragon has been given the nickname Rebel Dragon by the world government. Interestingly, the kanji used to represent dragon is the same as the one used for the celestial dragons. This might imply that despite being a descendant of the celestial dragons, he chose to rebel against them. The second possibility is that Garp started to hate the celestial dragons after Dragon was born, perhaps due to a specific incident. As I mentioned earlier, if the world government discovered he was from the D family after he joined the Marines, it's possible they used his wife as a hostage. This could be the hidden, tragic backstory behind his resentment. The third possibility lies in the multiple meanings of dragon in the world of One Piece. I explained this in detail in another video, but in One Piece there are two kanji used to represent dragon. One is used for winged dragons, like those on Punk Hazard, while the other is used for serpentine dragons, like Kaido or Momonosuke in their dragon forms. Interestingly, Monkey D. Dragon's name is typically written in katakana, leaving the specific meaning behind his name unclear. Does it symbolize the winged dragon associated with the celestial dragons, or does it point to the serpentine dragon like Kaido and Momonosuke? We don't know for sure. However, since Dragon likely has wind-related powers, it's reasonable to connect him to the serpentine dragon. In Japanese folklore, dragons are often depicted as serpent-like creatures that create tornadoes. That's why the word for tornado in Japanese, tatsumaki, uses the kanji for dragon. Additionally, the Revolutionary Army's ship, the Viento Granma, features a dragon design that resembles a serpentine dragon more than a winged one. Perhaps the name Dragon, given by Garp, carries the hope that he would become a man capable of transforming the dragon that symbolizes the celestial dragons into this dragon, a symbol of change and rebellion. By the way, Garp's name likely comes from the carp. In Japanese legend, there's a story that a koi fish climbing a waterfall transforms into a dragon. This is why Magikarp evolves into Gyarados in Pokémon. Although Gyarados isn't a dragon type, its design is based on a serpent-like dragon. Perhaps this legend is the reason why Garp's son is named Dragon. Now, let's shift our focus to Dragon as a father. When it comes to Luffy's mother, we have no concrete information at this point. However, Oda-sensei has made some comments about her, so let's take a look. In December 2022, Tanaka Mayumi, who has voiced Luffy in the anime for over 25 years, appeared as a guest on the YouTube channel Jonetsu Bar. During her appearance, she shared an interesting story about Luffy's mother. Tanaka revealed that she had always wondered why Luffy's father and grandfather are part of the story, but his mother isn't. As a mother herself, Tanaka became so curious about Luffy's mom that she decided to directly ask Oda-sensei, saying, "I really want to know about Luffy's mother. What kind of person is she?" She said that Oda-sensei responded like this: "I'm creating an adventure story. What do you think is the opposite of adventure?" A mother. Boys set off on adventures when they leave their mothers behind. Since I'm writing an adventure story, the mother doesn't appear. During the conversation, Tanaka seemed to sense Oda-sensei's firm decision not to include Luffy's mother in the story, and confidently stated that the possibility of her appearing is nearly zero.
永遠に母親は出てこないそうです。
永遠に出てこないんですか？
出てこない。多分じゃない。絶対出てこない。
絶対出てこないですか？
I'll include the link to the interview in the comments, so feel free to check it out if you're interested. That said, as mentioned in the collaboration video I did with Liam from Grand Line Review, Oda-sensei initially didn't plan to include Elbaf in the story either, but now we see it being explored. So while it's possible that he could change his mind and introduce Luffy's mother at some point, I personally think it's unlikely. Even if we don't know who Luffy's mother is, one important question remains. Why did Dragon, of all people, choose to have a child like Luffy? In the flashback from Chapter 1101, Kuma noticed that Dragon seemed to care about a certain boy in Fuchsia Village and asked him about it. Dragon's response was, "Children are a parent's weakness." This is interesting because Dragon's actions appear to contradict that statement. In Chapter 1066, we learn that 22 years ago, Dragon visited the ruins of Ohara. At that time, he was already active as the captain of the Freedom Fighters, but Shaka later mentions that Dragon formed the Revolutionary Army that same year. This means the Revolutionary Army was founded 22 years ago, which was 3 years before Luffy was born. I think you see where this is going. Unless Dragon's testosterone levels were unusually high, it's hard to imagine why he, as a revolutionary, would knowingly have a child, fully aware that becoming a parent would make him vulnerable. This means it's likely that Dragon developed the belief that children are a parent's weakness after Luffy was born. The hint lies in his conversation with Kuma. If you want to kill me, keep talking. If we take this statement literally, it suggests that Dragon may have experienced a tragic event where loving a child as a parent led to someone's death. As a revolutionary, Dragon has fought alongside many comrades, and it's reasonable to assume that some of them had children. He might have witnessed children being taken hostage or seen comrades sacrifice their lives to protect their kids. This kind of personal experience could have deeply shaped Dragon's worldview. On the other hand, there's another potential reason Dragon decided to have Luffy: to pass on the will of D. Dragon was present at Gol D. Roger's execution in Logetown 24 years ago. He was originally part of the Marines, and since his father was a rival to Roger, it's likely he knew that Roger's real name wasn't Gold Roger, but Gol D. Roger. As someone who carries the D in his own name, Dragon may have felt a strong responsibility to challenge the world government's rule and ensure the will of D was passed on to future generations. This might have influenced his decision to have a child. Fortunately, Dragon's birthplace, Goa Kingdom, had a safe haven: Fuchsia Village. He may have entrusted Luffy to that village and left the rest to fate, believing it was the best way to protect his son while fulfilling his mission. Is anyone still watching this far into the video? From here on, I'll dive into what I've really been wanting to talk about. Let me be direct. I suspect that Dragon might be the founder of Sword. Dragon once said this: "I spent a little time in the Marines. Unfortunately, I couldn't find justice there." This statement confirms that Dragon was once part of the Navy. But there's another line worth paying attention to. This one from Garp. "What's this? He didn't step forward? He said he was at Logetown to see you off." Even though Garp is a Marine under the world government, he's still in contact with Dragon, the leader of an opposing organization. I believe there's one specific organization that continues to connect them, and that is Sword. We don't yet know exactly how far back the history of Sword goes, but I believe its founder is none other than Monkey D. Dragon. Dragon was once a Marine, but left because he couldn't find the justice he was looking for. I think Sword represents the vision of what he believed the Marines should have been. Here's how I imagine the story. Dragon joined the Marines but eventually became disillusioned. He saw how the Marines, unable to defy the celestial dragons, caused harm to innocent citizens. Dragon wanted to save citizens, even if it meant defying the orders of the celestial dragons. To ensure he could continue fighting for the people, he submitted his resignation to the higher-ups. It's also possible that while Dragon was still a Marine, during the time he submitted his resignation, he collaborated with Garp to establish Sword. After that, however, Dragon likely refused to follow their orders and kept acting recklessly, which eventually led to his resignation being officially accepted, cutting his ties with the Marines. The full name of the organization is the Covert Special Forces Sword. While it's now known that Marines like Drake and Kobe are members, the name suggests that it originally operated as a highly classified unit. This might also explain why Nico Robin once described Dragon as a man whose background was a complete mystery. It's possible that Dragon, during his time in the Marines, primarily operated within Sword, which kept his actions and history under wraps. Of course, there's another layer to consider. The world government wouldn't want it publicly known that the leader of the Revolutionary Army used to be a Marine. That kind of revelation would be inconvenient for them. So they likely worked to erase any trace of Dragon's time in the Marines from public knowledge. What makes this even more interesting is that during the early days of the Revolutionary Army, their sails featured the sword emblem. Even now, the Revolutionary Army's symbol incorporates a sword piercing what looks like a dragon. It's hard to ignore the significance of showing those sails with the sword design during the scene where Dragon revealed he had once been part of the Marines. Additionally, there are revolutionary elements tied to Sword's current captain, Drake. For example, his ship is named the Liberal Hind, a name that hints at revolution or liberation. His epithet, Red Flag, is another clue, as the red flag has historically been a symbol of revolution. And here's something even more intriguing. Historically, the name Drake comes from the Old English word Draka, which means dragon. Also, in Swedish, the word drake is also used in the context of mythical dragons. That reminds me, Philea, who mentioned they live in Sweden, left a comment on one of my videos before. If you're watching this, I'd love to hear more from you about the word drake. Please share your thoughts in the comments. These connections, while not direct, strongly suggest ties between Drake, the current captain of Sword, and Dragon, the leader of the Revolutionary Army. Taken together, they add credibility to the idea that Dragon might be the original founder of Sword. There's also a hint of a connection between Drake and Garp, particularly regarding their views on justice. This was revealed in Vivre card. Garp's approach to justice is famously described as "Ore no seigi," my justice. In the global One Piece community, I've heard that my justice is often interpreted as selfish or self-serving justice. However, I personally believe it represents Garp's unwavering commitment to doing what he genuinely feels is right. Whether it was teaming up with Roger to take down the Rocks pirates at God Valley, or taking in Roger's son and leaving him to be raised by mountain bandits, these actions weren't aligned with the world government's ideals of justice. Instead, they were driven by Garp's own principles. One particularly striking moment was during the mission to rescue Kobe from Hachinosu, where Garp declared, "Justice will prevail." I'd like to share my interpretation of that statement with you. In this context, I don't think justice refers to the Marines as an institution. Rather, I believe it means that true justice lies in believing in yourself without hesitation. At that moment, Kobe and the other Sword members were panicking under Pizarro's attacks. Garp forcefully gave each of them specific orders, pushing them into action. This helped Kobe gather his resolve, enabling him to destroy Pizarro's giant arm and protect the Marine's warship. It reminds me of a famous quote from Zeph: "Even if you arm yourself with hundreds of weapons, they're no match for a single spear driven by firm resolve." In other words, true strength comes from believing in yourself. And that's the essence of Garp's My Justice. So, the true meaning of the title, The Last Lesson, isn't about leaving an old man behind so the younger generation can survive. It's about teaching them to trust in their own justice, without doubt or hesitation. It seems that Drake follows the exact same concept of justice as Garp. Why? Because Drake actively interfered with CP0's operation to assassinate Monkey D. Luffy, despite technically being on the same side as them. When confronted about his actions, Drake's response was, "This is my justice." Yes, this is exactly what we mean by Garp's justice. Drake appears to have been heavily influenced by Garp's philosophy, believing in his own choices and sticking to them. That's likely why he committed to helping Luffy's side all the way through. In fact, considering that Garp's direct protégés, like Kobe and Helmeppo, are members of SWORD, it's very plausible that Garp's influence also led Drake to join SWORD. By the way, according to the Vivre card, Drake's hobby is astrophysics. It's possible that this hobby of his was inspired by witnessing Garp's technique. Galaxy impact. There's another person in the Marines who seems to embody the same concept of my justice as the members of SWORD. Smoker. While it hasn't been confirmed whether Smoker is actually a member of SWORD, it's likely that the future of the Marines will be led by SWORD members, with Smoker playing a key role alongside them. On a related note, as I mentioned earlier, the name Drake means dragon in Swedish. Different languages have unique words for dragon, but here's something fascinating. In Polish, the word for dragon is smoke. This makes you wonder, could they become the true dragons of this world, leading it toward a better future and replacing the celestial dragons as genuine leaders of change?